Andrew Salisbury. The title of his speech is The Right Stuff. The Right Stuff. Please welcome Andrew Salisbury.
Thank you very much. It's November 1971. Richard Nixon is president. Gas, 25 cents. I am out on a Saturday morning with my dad in the middle of the right stuff. The Cape is about 15 miles away, and we're building rockets about 20 miles in the other direction. My father is the greatest generation guy. His buddy from work, Mr. Keller, is going to go for a flight with us. My father is an experienced pilot. I am a trainee pilot. We're with my friend Sean, who may or may not be an unindicted co-conspirator in a certain M80 incident that has been related. We're going to take these guys up for their very first flight. Mr. Keller is not an engineer. He is a lawyer. But still served in the Army, did D-Day. Tough guy. Beautiful fall day for Florida, 75 degrees, unlimited visibility, humidity steady, wind from the east. Perfect day for flying. The flying club is set up in the middle of an orange grove. We're going to take out the Cessna 172, the family station wagon of airplanes. We begin with the all-important checklist. Now, I'm sure you all have seen pictures of the Space Center when they're about to do a launch. And there are a whole lot of very short haircuts, tiny ties, shirts with pocket protectors. That's my dad. The all-important checklist is deployed. And we literally begin the ritual. Start at the the pilot's side door, open the door, proceed around in a clockwise fashion, pulling off instrument covers, checking leading edges, examining the fuel for water. Everything must be done to the checklist, step by step. Takes us about 15 minutes to walk completely around the plane, inspecting everything. We're ready to fly. My father takes the pilot seat. Mr. Keller takes the co-pilot seat. His son behind him. I'm sitting behind my dad. Checklist is in Mr. Keller's lap. We begin the pre-flight engine start sequence. And you would think that we were going to fire off a Saturn V. It is very serious. Magneto check, instrument check, radio check, 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 check. That's why they call it a checklist. We start the engine. My father stands on the brakes, 2 control pedals in front of you, stands on the brake tips, runs the engine up to about 40%, 3,800 RPM. Plane is shaking. It wants to fly. We turn. We're on the grass strip now, lining up for takeoff. Everything looks good. Oil pressure, everything. Everybody's in their seats. Now, this is an uncontrolled airspace. There is no tower. So we do a 360. We're looking for oncoming obstacles, anything in our way. Looking good. Throttle goes to 40%, 50%. Engine is ready to go. Brakes come off. Plane begins to fly down the runway. Brr, we're accelerating. Now think, what is the right stuff? It is a matter of being in control and dealing with things. The checklist makes it easy to go step by step by step. What do you do when it's not going so well? How do you handle and recover from these kinds of things? Always a challenge. We're flying down the runway, orange trees all around us. It's kind of exciting. These people have never really flown a small airplane before. They've been on big jets. They're a little nervous. Everything's looking good though. We're accelerating. The plane is flying. We begin to get about halfway down the runway. We're at 74 miles an hour takeoff velocity for the Cessna. Plane starts to lift off the ground. Father pulls back a little bit on the yoke. Plane starts to angle up. We are doing what's called rotation for takeoff. goes like this. Maybe 50 feet in the air, 60 feet in the air, 75 miles an hour. The pilot's seat unlatches and slides all the way back. This is not on the checklist. Basically, I now have my father's seat in my lap, in the back seat. He is holding on to the yoke, pretty much the only thing to hold on in the airplane. That is also the control for the airplane. So by pulling it all the way back, we now are attempting a directly vertical takeoff. This is not a fighter jet. It is not designed for this. Almost immediately, we hear the stall warning, wonk, 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 wonk. This makes everyone a little excited. I take both feet, both hands, put them on the back of the seat, and shove the pilot seat as far forward as I can, which turns out to be a little too far forward because he has now taken the yoke and slammed it as far forward as it can go. We go from stall warning to crash indicator in seconds. We are only 60 feet in the air. We do not have a lot of room for crashing. We're going to do it anyway, but not a lot of room for it. He very calmly pulls the yoke back to the center position. Airplane levels out. We get to the end of the runway. Salad. We have clipped the top of an orange tree. We have clipped the top of another orange tree. And I'm not kidding. There are salad pieces spraying. Pilot pulls up. We get to about 300, 400 feet of altitude. He begins to make a series of right-hand turns, lines us back up, puts us back on the runway. We taxi to the very end of the runway. We examine the semicircular hole cut in an orange tree. We get out, we look at the airplane. Actually in pretty good shape, prop's a little sticky. Turns out it's not really a salad spinner. Everything is good. We're pretty much done with the flight for the day. He takes the checklist and begins the post-flight checklist, shutting this down, shutting that down. He then pulls a number 2 pencil out of his pocket protector. At the bottom of the takeoff checklist, he writes, double check pilot's seat. Turns to me and says, good job. Now that's the right stuff.